Maneva na se ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV de osia dem yopo.
Studio by Mr. Twum Bafoa. I want to take your comments on the happenings in Venezuela.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning to all the listeners and the watchers of Alaji and Alaji. Happy New Year to all of you. And once again, it's always a pleasure to be back here. I always tell everybody that this was the first platform where my political effusions were given credence, and so I have never stopped coming back here. Wherever I found myself, I will always come back here, and that's a firm promise. People may say, oh, you are here, why are you going there? And I say, never forget where you were made, because when all is said and done, be nice to the people you met on your way up. They are the same people you meet on your way down. So, Uncle Kwesi has always been a beacon of free speech for most of us who felt we had something to say when we were younger during those days. He was somebody we looked up to, and we still look up to him today. I really don't know why anybody is surprised by what is happening in Venezuela, because it has clearly been telegraphed. If you guys will recall, some supposed drug dealers were being bombed out of the seas in Venezuela, you know, in a preamble to what has happened. If you guys, just in case nobody knows, the commander of the naval forces in that region resigned because he said he didn't know what the objective was. Not too long ago, he resigned. An African-American general, a naval general, he resigned. And so this has been coming. But wars of conquest are not new. They are not new. What people don't know is that apart from the fact that there is an oil quotient, because Venezuela sits on the largest deposits of oil. Just Google it. Venezuela sits on the largest deposits of hydrocarbon in the world, even more than Saudi Arabia. So, if you recall, the late Hugo, what was his name? Hugo Chavez stood against imperialism, attempts to remove him from within without. And you see, as in our case in this country during the Nkrumah years and even up to today, every time the aggressors come from without, they have collaborators from within. In our country, we have the Dankobuzia tradition, who collaborate with everything that is incoming. You know, I know we'll get there sometime, but as we speak today, they are busy running around telling everybody that Bank of Ghana has made losses. Because some way, somehow, this government has found a way to ensure that our currency remains stable. But we'll get there. Let me go back to the substantive issue. We are also not in a position today to have a strategic balance of East and West, you know, what do you call it, military detente, where you have a mutually assured destruction, you know, where one group of people cannot do anything in fear of what the reprisals are. You see, because whether we may agree or not agree, the Russians are also engaged in their own, you know, little touch elsewhere in the world. So how can they call out the Americans for doing what they're doing? It's a very difficult world we live in, and unfortunately we have some people who have absolutely no qualms to do things like this. Let's also remember that the war industry is an economic has an economic quotient to it. The General Dynamics, the Raytheons and co of this world, they make weapons, and those weapons need to be tested. Somebody needs to buy the weapons. They need to make sure that those weapons are working well so that they can actually improve them. As morbid as I'm sounding, I'm telling you, because that's what it is. You know, they make the weapons, they stockpile them somewhere, somehow they need to find a way of using it so that they can even make it better and more effective. You know, bunker busting bombs, these bombs, that bomb. And I mean, what is the point? What are we looking for? What is the point? Are we invading a country, killing people because we want access to their oil? Is that what we want? But history has shown us that it never ever works. There isn't a single time, not one. If anybody who is listening has any one time where some of these aggressions have taken root and changed the culture and changed the country, tell me, whether it was Somalia, whether it was Afghanistan, whether it was Vietnam, whether it was, name it. It never works. Because you can never subdue a people who are unwilling to be subdued. Look, let's go back in history. The likes of Attila the Hun, the Mongols, Alexander the Great, Hannibal, they captured large swaths of land, the Romans, the Greeks. But you can never subdue an unwilling people, because you know what? You don't have the arithmetic. You don't have enough soldiers to kill everybody. You don't have enough people to subdue them, whether it was the Nazis, whether it was the British trying to dominate India, the rest of the world, name it. So they will bomb, they will sell a yarn, they will do whatever it is they want to do. At a point in time, the people who will lay dormant for a while will rise up, and you will turn tail and flee. And what normally happens is they declare victory and leave. Right? The most recent one is Afghanistan. If the Americans could dominate anywhere in the world and succeed, it should have been Afghanistan, because Afghanistan is so big and relatively the population is not that bad. The people will simply, somehow or the other, they have been forced to come to an agreement with the Taliban. Shocking. Right now, the Taliban are ruling Afghanistan again. But they also have become wise to the situation, and now the Taliban have public relations. So history should tell them that it never actually quite works out. And in the end, they will turn around, they will declare victory, and they will, even Grenada, even tiny Grenada back in the day, they invaded Grenada, and then what happened? They left. So my advice, and I don't have the cojones or the wherewithal to advise a superpower, is that look at the history. The history doesn't favor you. And the Venezuelans are a very conscious people. And the countries are, look, the person who is making the most noise right now is the Colombian president. Right? Mm. So the people around them are not happy. They tried it with the Cubans. They have never been able to subdue the Cubans, because the Cubans will take to the hills. And if you come to the hills, they will find you. So let history be our guide. The great Bob Marley once said, only a fool leans upon his own misunderstanding. Right? He also said, you don't know your past, you will never know your future. Let's learn from the past. Let's learn from history. That's all I will say.
All right, thank you so much for your submission. Now let's move to our next topic, and I'll start with you, Mr. Wȧrns, on the review of 2025 with a focus on the state of the economy, and then the Constitutional Review Committee report.
I should join you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I start, let me say something that some of my colleagues in the NDC may not be happy that I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Some of us are busy trying to run out President John Mahama. Let me warn all of us. It is a very, very dangerous vocation. The NDC exists, this government as it is. Yes, we have the party vehicle, and I've been a part of it for 32 years. So I'm not going to be undersold by anybody. And I am telling them, and they should listen to me carefully, that attempting to run out President Mahama is a very dangerous vocation. He who has ears, let him hear. Our party exists on the goodwill, our government, exists on the goodwill that Ghanaians have afforded President Mahama. You see, President Mahama wields a lot of power. In this country, we give our executive a lot of power. And for a man who holds that power and exhibits it in such humility is what has attracted many Ghanaians to him. That election victory that he won after rising from the dead, literally and figuratively, is something that should tell us in the NDC that going into the 2028 election, we are going to go with his goodwill. And for those people who are trying to turn him into a lame duck less than a year into his political office, please be very careful what you're doing. Because you are wishing for something, and when you get it, you may not be able to deal with it. There's a historical precedent. In the 90s, the Labour Party in the UK won a sweeping election. Before then, there was a contest between Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. And somehow, elders sat down and said, look, let Tony Blair go, because he had a certain appeal to the youth, and he was, and so he went. After a while, Gordon Brown decided that he was, by hell or high water, he was going to remove Tony Blair using party structures. Of course, Tony Blair himself didn't help himself by subscribing to that war, the weapons of mass destruction war. But in the end, it completely destroyed the Labour Party, and it took them 25 years to come back to power. And at the time the Labour Party lost election to James Cameron, the economy wasn't bad at all. Actually, the war had actually fueled the economy of the United Kingdom. But they destroyed themselves from within. Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow brothers and sisters in the NDC, from the day Jerry Rawlings took up arms to the day President Mahama and Professor Jane Nana Owusu-Adjumah won election, leadership has found us. We in the party don't find leadership. I will not give you examples. You know, all the people who have done a construct to become president. It's never happened. It's never happened. Stop trying to run President Mahama out of office, because you will regret it. It is the only thing that will bring the NPP back to power. You see, because let me move on to the economy. At this rate, the NPP are going to have a big problem selling any economic vision to Ghanaians. This Christmas, how was your Christmas? As opposed to last year and the year before? Simple question. Were you able to go out and buy the things you needed to buy? I'm sure you did, relatively. And I'll tell you why you were able to do it. Because the US dollar to the cedi is now 12.4. Even at the most expensive forex bureau. A year by this time, it was 17.8. So translate the arithmetic. You are buying things. Just it's not exactly that, but let's say you are buying imported goods at 66% of what you used to buy it before. And you see, it shows. Yesterday, I was somewhere. I was at a jazz club, and a certain musician came and decided to play a certain song. You should have seen how people jumped up singing the song. A song that is related to President Mahama's campaign. There were over 2,000 people there. Be ye not deceived. When 66% of the populace are saying the country is in the right direction, it has a lot to do with the person who is holding the reins of this country. President Mahama won elections unprecedented in the annals of the Fourth Republic. Unprecedented. Today, as we speak, the NDC has enough members of parliament to change the constitution without any recourse to anybody. Has never happened before. But let's use what the Ghanaian people have given us to benefit them. Let us not forget that they are the same people who give us the power, and they are the same people who can turn it around. As we speak today, you see the likes of Kojo Nkrumah holding press conferences saying that we have made losses. Bank of Ghana has made $214 billion. Just a kasabibri. What Kojo Nkrumah is not telling you is how much losses the Bank of Ghana made under the administration. Under their administration, they took printers to the Bank of Ghana to print currency. They went to print currency against the laws of this country. They went and they printed currency to fuel inflation. When they were leaving power, inflation was at 58%. Today, it is what, 9%? So the fiscal discipline is actually in place. And Ghanaians are feeling the effects of a man who is disciplined. And there's at least one person sitting here, Kwesi Pratt, Uncle Kwesi as we affectionately call him, who has intimate knowledge of who the man President Mahama is. And let him tell you who he is. The unassuming, reluctant warrior And he is a warrior. Don't make any mistake about it, but he's reluctant nonetheless. And that is the kind of president that we want to have in Ghana going forward. A man who can look at a man like H. Kwesi Prempeh, who contributed to his downfall in 2016, and say, come and chair the Constitutional Review Committee. You think the Akufo-Addo would have done that? Huh? You think the Akufo-Addo would have done that?
Not at all.
Do you think that if Akufo-Addo was doing CRC, he would have asked Raymond Atuguba to become his the person who you see, that is the nature of the man who believes that this country belongs to all of us. Let's not forget, this is a man whose father was the first education minister in this country after independence. Mr. E. Mahama. He grew up, his formative years was spent under the yoke of an imperialist school that removed his father's government, and because of that, his father had to take him and his brothers and go and hide them in the north. And yet he has never allowed bitterness to rule him. Indeed, some of us, the hawks in the NDC, always go to him and say, Chief, I did with them, give it to me, and his answer to you is, don't let the bitterness rule you. Control the bitterness. That's the only way you succeed. I don't know how many times he has told me that. Okay? So we are all guided by him. Those people issuing edicts and saying, calling people out for this and that, burn it. Because without President Mahama's goodwill, we are not getting anywhere. Now let me go to the Constitutional Review Commission, because I think the issues are commingled. Okay, so right. I will commingle them as much as
very well.
Please, I have read excerpts of what the Constitutional Review Committee have recommended, and thankfully, whatever it is that they do is going to go to the people of Ghana. And thankfully, hopefully, nobody is going to be whipped into a 3-line party whip to vote for a certain direction. But I can tell you, me sitting here, this is my personal position, and I'm allowed to have one. I am vigorously and virulently against extending the presidential term of any president in this country for any reason. You see, if something is not broken, don't fix it. Go and independently poll the young people who voted for us in this country and ask them whether they want 8 years, another 8 years of Akufo-Addo and Kenufo-Yatta transformed into 10 years. Do you want a future president to have 8 years of Akufo-Addo and Kenufo-Yatta, thankfully, or you want 10 years of Akufo? Look at the damage they did to our country in 8 years. You want to add 20% more damage to the damage they've already done. You see, a very good friend of mine who is a lawyer once told me that laws are not made for good people. If you're a law-abiding citizen, the law doesn't apply to you. Laws are made to curb the impulses of people who are just criminals. Today, we are looking for Kenufo-Yatta. The whole nation wants him to be brought back to answer for his tenure. In the 8 years that he superintended the finance office, we all lost our pensions. You want to give him 20% more of the time. Is that what you want to do? Besides, Kwame Nkrumah developed this country in 6 years. Motorway, Akosombo Dam, all the factories that he put in place, all the things that Kwame Nkrumah did for this country, he did it in 6 years as a republic. Why does anybody want 10 years? Let me come closer to home. When the NDC won election 2012, the MPP took us to court. For 8 years, we couldn't do anything. President Mahama put down the Kotoka International Airport Terminal 3 in less than 2 years. He built UGMC, less than 2 years. All the district hospitals, everything that he did during that time, that saved us from dying in droves during the COVID era. He did it in 3 years and 4 months. Why do you want to give us an excuse? And the excuse that HKC Prempe gave, which boggled my mind, was that President Kufuor said, oh, when you come into government, it takes, hey, what are you coming to do in government? You see, this is why the young people lose faith in us, the politicians. You campaign to come to power. During the time you were campaigning, you didn't know who your finance minister was going to be. You didn't know who all your ministers were going to be. So you now have to come into power before you start looking. So you need another year so that you can prepare to steal. Hey, are we serious at all? Are we serious right about now? Are we serious? And then, this whole Constitutional Review Commission thing becomes yet another procurement issue for those turnips at the EC, right? I don't know why they are still there, but they are there. So before you realize, they are going to come up with new fingerprint machines, new TALIS machines, and this contract to go to this, and this entity, and this, they are all there. By the time they finish, you'll be holding engagements for their daughters and closing down the streets, right? And we are still sitting here talking about things that we don't need to do. Things that we need. We need to put a railway between Tema and Boku. That's what we need to do. We need to put a first-class road between Accra and Paga. That's what we need to do. We need to put a first-class road between Accra and the Lubo. That's what we need to do. We need to finish with all the fishing harbors that we are building. We need to finish the inland transport system that goes to Bankra. We have all those things that we need to do so that we can give our young people work to do. There's a Chinese say, you build a road, you create jobs. Because you see, when you build roads, for those of you, just imagine it. You build a road, the least that will happen is you will see women coming to sit by the road to sell produce. When you travel, you see them selling snails, selling yams. That is trade that drives our economy. They are sitting there in the Constitutional Review and in this and that. What do we need to review? Something that's working. There are certain aspects of it. Fine, I have no problem. I mean, the people who, so there are a lot of people who are smarter than me, so it's okay. But me, from the point of view of the people I talk to on a daily basis, those of us who were not that smart in school, this is what they are saying. People don't have water to drink. People don't have the health facilities are not what it should be. Go to Kolebu Eye Clinic and go and see the shifting cultivation that goes there when you have eye problems. Go there. I go there regularly because I have problems with my eyes.
Right.
Chief, let's just finish. This is important. It's very important. And when we are doing these things, right, we need to understand that this economy has needs. Our education system is completely broken. Look at the results of the SSV. And we are running around wanting to create procurement for dementia and the turnips that run easy. Seriously? Last but not least, my brother, Nekwa said, as a country, we need to get serious. The posturing is too much. Opprobrium has happened in almost every part of our sub-region. The reason why it is not happening here is because of our culture. But if we push it enough, and the young people of this country erupt in frustration, it will not be NDC. It will be you for what you did and you for what you didn't do. He who has ears, let him hear.
Right. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Kwesi Bafoa, for your submission. There's an update on the Venezuelan issue, and it says, U.S. captures Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and flies him out of the country after striking Caracas, Trump announces. To go.
Well, I think that from where I sit, I don't know how I can say what I'm about to say without sounding like I have an interest in what I'm saying, but then again I do. Most of the institutions that the state of most of the institutions that how we met it when we came back to power had a lot of structural issues. A lot. I don't necessarily have to go into them for people to know that those structural issues were there. And in as much as government is always in a continuum, and when you inherit a public institution, you need to progress it from whence you found it. There are also things that needed to change, switches that needed to happen. But I think most importantly, you also have to ensure that the people you work with accept that Ghanaians have chosen a different path. It's not as simple as I'm making it sound. And there are some people within those very organizations who make it impossible for you to superintend it, let alone even ring in any changes if you wish. But by and large, I think that we're progressing. I think there's a new milieu of trust that exists among the reset agenda, and people can actually see the difference. You see, I think your problems begin when the difference is not being seen, and it all comes from who the leader is. Which sets out his vision. He has people in place, and not just people in place, people who are competent enough to carry out that vision. In the past, you have seen people given positions as lucky dip. You know, put your finger in the pot and see what you can grab. That's not what this is about. You know, in this particular administration, you've even seen the extent of which people have been appointed and then changed immediately because something came up. You know, I need not go into everything, but sometimes the appointing authorities don't know certain things. As soon as they find out, they have to switch, make a switch or make a complete change. That has happened. And so it tells you that, you know, we have people who have their eyes on the ball. Most of us have been enjoined to make sure that the president's vision is carried out to the strictest of superintendment. And for me, it is a sweet or refreshing release from what we had in the past. Now, I am not here to say that you inherited rot at every single institution, because that would be disingenuous. The institution that I had was left in pretty sound shape. What I'm simply doing is taking it and giving it the vision that the president has given me to give it, and of course my own peripheral approach to how I think that we should be moving forward. So I think by and large from my perspective, everything looks good. We are not saying we are perfect. We can never be perfect. We try to attain perfection, but perfection may never be achieved. It's an aspiration. So hopefully we'll get there. But the people of this country need to be patient. And whilst I say we need to be patient, we also need to understand that the people of this country don't want to be patient. They voted us into power because their patience has run out. When it comes to politicians, their patience have simply run out with us. We simply talk a good, and like I said before, I've been at this for 32 years. Many of us, and I use it in generic terms because I need to bring all of us to the water to drink. We simply talk a good game when we want power. When we get power, we do a different thing. Thankfully, we are not doing that right now. That is not the new stratosphere that we are heading towards. And let me give Ghanaians a firm assurance that President Mahama is going to get you where you wanted government to take you without any equivocation.
All right, thank you so much. Let's take a few of our messages. I'll come back to our panelists. This one says, America and their Zionists has committed a lot of crimes and unpunished yet. This one is from Sheikh. Musa Abatwa says 2025 was a year to turn the economy around, and the 2026 is going to be a promising one. A prudent and solid foundation has been laid, and the positive signs are becoming evident. This one says, Mr. Sabo is very confident in lying to us and doesn't respect our capacity to think and understand that he is not making, well, please send your messages devoid of insults. I'm sorry. He called himself a faithful man when everything he does spells otherwise. Such a disgrace. Thank you so much for your message. Dear producers of Alaji and Alaji and Pan-African Television, your viewers deserve quality and intelligence. Well, please, I'm sure the person is referring to Sabo. Sorry. This one says, Sena, this is Justice. I wish you a happy new year, especially my greetings to Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr., Mr. Kwejochum Boafo, and Lawyer Pia Dankwa. All right, thank you so much. He said he's Mohammed in Techiman. Nanado is a bad example to use against the 5-year term. Even 2 years of Nanado or Nanado's type is bad. 4 years is too short. All right, thank you so much for your message. Sabo, it's not a crime to be truthful to yourself and Ghanaians. Can you mention one contractor who has done a job and has not been paid? All right, thank you so much for your message. This one says, this Sabo guy is still shocked. Ghanaians are now aware of everything going on in the country and not being controlled by their propaganda or their propaganda TV stations and radio stations. Thank you so much for your message. This one says, please tell Sabo to stop campaigning for the New Patriotic Party. Some Ghanaians are very grateful for what they've seen so far. All right, thank you so much for your message. Good morning, Justice, and to your guest. In 2025, NDC government did well. I wish them well. God bless our homeland Ghana and make us strong. Let me take a few of our WhatsApp messages too. Then I'll come back to the guest. All right, before we go for those messages, let me come to you, Lawyer Pia Dankwa. All right, okay. Let me continue with some of the messages. This one says, good morning, Justice. I just saw that that news on German television that President Maduro has been captured and flown out of the country. Mr. Kwesi Pratt is one of our political teachers that must be studied in our entire education. He shows maturity in security cautious. He shows maturity in security cautious, more or less political threats to our nation. All right, thank you so much for your message. Nobody is short. Nobody is out of running JN you're wrong. But who said that people are running GM? This one says, this is what I want people to do. Sabo all the time. Well, this one said, hey, this man can lie. And who are you? Who are they? So I'm sure they are referring to you. This one says, Mr. Pratt has finished Sabo today. And Govt sent in that one. This one says, is the Russia-Ukraine war over? Sabo, somebody is asking you if the Russia-Ukraine war has come to an end. Someone should tell Sabo that there is nothing he will use in MPP's first year to compare that of the first year of a National Democratic Congress. All right, thank you so much for your message. The government of President Mahama in 2025 was fantastic. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Pratt. You have made my day. But please give Sabo a cool glass of water. Watching you live from Spain. All right, thank you so much for watching us from Spain. Is Sabo the MPP's best communicator? Somebody is asking. Sabo is not fit. Well, please. Sorry. This one says, Pan African TV. Is it by? Well, sorry. Uncle Kwesi Pratt is always on point. That is the mark of experience to the development of our country. Now let me take few of the messages here. We have a lot of WhatsApp messages too. Please don't call the WhatsApp number. This one says, my regards to the host, including your panelist. I'll be grateful if Comrade Kwesi Pratt and Solomon Owusu will give me their phone numbers. Alhaji Hassan sent in that one. Thank you so much for your message. This one says, the third term agenda is pushed by the opposition MPP party to innocent Ghanaians. They are aware that Mahama will not go for that, but when he refused, another agenda will say no to Mahama. Vote. Well, the message is not clear. Please, you can send it again. This one says, the man in the studio this morning representing the MPP is not being truthful to us. It seems to him he is not in this country. He is destroying their party. Mr. Kwesi Pratt, you will live long for the country Ghana. You are my hero. All right, thank you so much for your message. This one says, Uncle Kwesi, the 5-year election period will solve two major problems. Monies spent every 4 years will now be spent every 5 years. It is saving in disguise. Secondly, it will reduce that's what the person said. Secondly, it will reduce pressure on political parties. Elliot in Amansaman sent in that message. And this one says, good morning, Justice. If Sabo is saying that inflation, which has dropped from 22.5% to 12%, then I don't know which part of the country he's coming from. This is how the MPP's foot soldiers will remain ungrateful and never praise the hard work of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the NDC. Watching you from the Republic of where is that? You said you are in Guan district, Akpafu. Okay, all right, thank you so much.
PENDREAM TV now, so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.